I want to thank everybody today for joining us for our first She Builds session. For those of you that are new, She Builds is a powerful collaboration between the community, corporate and community leaders, and volunteers who are dedicated to advancing the housing and community concerns affecting women. Volunteers, homeowners, and community members come to the builds and projects that we'll have in June with a myriad of experiences and skills to share and learn from one another. Of all the household types, a female-headed household with children will have a much higher prevalence of repair needs and costs, because oftentimes women are making decisions about childcare, juggling, working, putting food on the table, and the last thing they often want to deal with is a home repair or maintenance. Women-led and women-focused, She Builds provides critical repairs for women-headed households and women-focused community spaces. She Builds empowers women to make a difference in their community and to build a supportive community network. So today I'm grateful and honored that we have Councilwoman Jasmine Santana. And before I introduce you, I'd like to read a little biography because you've got quite a impressive background. And again, we're grateful for your time this afternoon. Ward 14, Councilwoman Jasmine Santana was elected in November 2017, becoming the first Latina council member in the city's history. Councilwoman Santana represents Clark Fulton, Stockyards, and portions of Brooklyn Center, Tremont, and West Boulevard neighborhoods. She serves on 4 council committees: Health and Human Services, Safety, Transportation, and Utilities. Councilwoman Santana worked as an outreach coordinator with the nonprofit Hispanic Alliance, focusing on public safety, lead abatement, and various social issues. She also worked for Metro Health Medical Center, promoting health and nutrition and education in the Hispanic community. While at Metro Health, she helped develop the first grassroots Latina Breast Cancer Coalition program in Northeast Ohio. Councilwoman Santana is a graduate of Max Hayes Vocational School. She is currently studying nonprofit administration and public health through a dual program with Cuyahoga Community College and Cleveland State. She lives in Jones Home Historic District neighborhood with her husband and 2 teenage children. So thank you, Councilwoman. I will turn it over to you to, where are you? Oh, there you are. Well, thank you so much. You're on mute. There we go.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to participate in your first She Builds, which I absolutely love the name. Thank you, everyone.
Well, and I wanted, we wanted to really, in addition to helping with repairs and teaching women how to be empowered in their own homes, we wanted to lift up somebody like you who's got such a great background and has really, at the top of your game, especially being the first Latina woman in Cleveland. So if you could just share a little bit about how you got to where you're at and share your story.
Yes, so I know much of that information you sent, you shared through my bio, but just to get a little bit deeper into how I got to the place that I am right now. So I grew up in the neighborhood that I serve, since the age of 14. I've worked in this neighborhood since I was 14. I worked at a drugstore here in the neighborhood, Cleveland Public Library, Metro Health, Hispanic Alliance. So, I worship in the neighborhood. Everything that I do involves Ward 14 area. And so, all of these different roles have prepared me to, for the role that I am in now with Metro Health. And I would tell you that was like the beginning of kind of developing my passion to serve the community. I worked at Metro Health women, Black and brown women, were presenting at Metro Health with late stage breast cancer. And I'm talking about tumors, out their breasts. And there were women that lived right down the street from Metro Health. And so I helped assist in developing the first Latina breast cancer outreach program. And it was a community outreach program that went out to the community, met women where they were at, particularly with the Black and brown. And we started building these kind of huge healthcare institutions and churches and shelters and schools. And we brought the mammo van for the mammograms, and then, doctors for the breast exam. We had bilingual staff. We had organizations there, right? And once again, that was when the love for my community came, that passion to serve women. And, women that really were going through the same thing that I grew up with, right? I grew up with a single mom, transportation issues, language barriers. She barely made ends meet. They took her out of 4th grade, brought her from Puerto Rico here. She cleaned house for a living. So it was like after a couple decades after that, I was thinking to myself, wow, women are still going through these struggles, and I think I felt it more because it was the Latino community. And we were still very stagnant and not building that equity, not moving forward. So I did that for 9 years. And I learned of just many of the barriers that were taking place. I mean, domestic violence was still very prevalent, right? Access to large institutions, which is the reason why women were presenting with late stage breast cancer. So I did that for 9 years, and then they came to a point where, you just feel like your role is done, right? You've done as much as you can, and now it's time to move on. So then I started working at Hispanic Alliance, also as a director of community engagement, and I worked on lead and safety issues, housing, and I actually helped develop another program, which Women of Impact. It was a Spanish, Mujeres Latinas de Impacto, and to civically engage women. Right. So once again, the reason I'm sharing all this background, I did a lot of community work and listening to a lot of our families. And I felt this disenfranchised, how disenfranchised it was in our neighborhood, and how disconnected people were to government, or even to the resources that were available to them. So it's, one of the examples of why I decided to run, which was the breaking point, was there was a street where families were renting, and the property owners decided to raise their rent 300%. And these families, very vulnerable, low income, they knew who they were, going after, were forced to leave their homes. And because they wanted to take those houses and knock them down to expand on an event that was taking place in that community. And it was about 72 families that were displaced, and none of them were able to stay in the neighborhood. And I knew from growing up in a very blighted community, I actually grew up in Detroit Shoreway before it even had a name. And I knew that investment, it was good that was coming to the neighborhood, but I also knew that it was going to present challenges. So families, had to move. And that's when I decided, what, I have to step up and do something. I knew I was serving people, one woman at a time, one family at a time. But in order for you to make change, it comes through policy. It comes through systematic change. And never been involved in politics before, civically engaged, yes. But it was when I decided to run, and here I am. I know that's a long answer to your question.
Well, no, and I think it's, it's hard work to do what you do. And I think politics are challenging. What would you tell your younger self? If you, know what you know now, what would you tell your younger self?
Because I grew up with so many barriers, I grew up very fearful, lots of doubts, very self-conscious. And even though I always aspired to do great things, there was always those little voices in my head that were like, you're not gonna amount to nothing, right? People from this neighborhood don't amount to anything, right? They don't amount to doctors and attorneys. And you know what? That wasn't the conversation that we had at the table with my mom, right? She just said, get a 9 to 5, make sure you pay your bills, And that's it. I mean, that's what she aspired for our lives. So what I would tell myself is definitely believe in yourself, follow your heart. I feel that we all have a calling and a purpose, like a GPS that guides us, and we just have to overcome, those fears and those voices in our head.
Absolutely. And what do you like best about your job? Besides, you definitely are making an impact and that's rewarding, but what do you like best about it?
Yeah, serving people. You know what? I love to serve people and help them. And, people are tired. They're going through so many challenges, right? And
Mhm.
so my role here is to make it easier for them, to be a voice at City Hall for, to improve quality of life issues. So when there's a family that comes in here and they feel helpless, they feel no one's, hearing them, and I'm able to help them. And then I get, that email or that text message, like, you've changed, my life, or you've really helped me, and now I'm able to do this, whatever that the case may be. That is rewarding to me. That's inspiring. And that's what helps me overcome the negativity
Right.
of my role.
Absolutely. Well, and Rebuilding Together does a lot of work in your community, and we've recently we'll be at Women's Recovery in June 11th and 12th, and then we recently we're working on the Stockyard Park with our neighborhood Step Up program. So it's just been a great collaboration with the Metro West, and Elena Zollers isn't on here, but she's been on this committee and helped out as well. And so one last question, since we are talking about home repairs, have you ever tackled anything, or do you have any, horror stories or any good stories?
That is a problem. So I've painted, right? Like I can paint, but no, I normally pay someone to do any type of construction in my home, because that would be a nightmare if I do it. However, I do believe, and I love what you're doing and what you're working on, because there's a lot of single moms in our neighborhood. And once again, I do a lot of programming to serve single moms. And it's just, changing the light bulb or putting up a picture, or, and we know that women, environment impacts us, right? And it's like, you want to walk in your home and you want it to at least feel some type of zen in there. So, we do want to partner more to be able to teach these women, even, just kind of soft skills on construction. And that way we don't always have to rely on men to do it.
That's right.
So, yeah. So I'm a painter. That's as much as I go. I do like to decorate.
Well, even painting can be difficult. One time I painted what I thought was the right color, and then like the next day, I did it so quickly, and there's even a skill to that. And that really is the key, that women can feel empowered and accomplished in getting something done, saving money, and if you can repair something yourself, and, you absolutely will feel great about that. Well, and hopefully next year we'll be able to, we've stuck to outside because of COVID, but hopefully as this program grows, we'll have more women-headed household projects that we can help, as well as, our Zoom sessions will hopefully be in person, next year. So we'll really teach people some skills.
Yeah. And Pam, I just want to, and to finish off, we do have a program called Painting a Better Picture, because we have a lot of illegal dumping in our neighborhood. And maybe this is an opportunity for us to partner in the future. And these are basically just taking, litter or waste and creating art out of it. But I think we could be very creative and partnering with some type of, home, rehab or updates, or so let's talk about that in the future.
Anybody have any questions? I see we've got a couple thank yous in the chat. Any questions for Councilwoman Santana? Well, I told her when we were talking with her, I'm so grateful that you took the time today, because having somebody as accomplished as you and your community, willing to take the time really validates, because people respond to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Pam, for the opportunity. And Sandra, I know you're up next. I'm actually going to hear your intro, and then I'll have to log off because I have another event. But thank you once again for the invite. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now what do you see? Do you see Sandra? Do you see my PowerPoint?
Yes.
We
Okay.
do.
I'm gonna say share it.
Here you go.
Is it good?
You want me to go ahead?
Very nice. No, I'm gonna, okay. Well, and I wanted to say, before I introduce Sandra, I think this, a lot of us on our call are of that age where we, are getting older, or we are working and living and supporting older parents. And I know personally that, Sandra's been just in working with her and helping with my own dad in his home. And so hopefully, while you may not need this now, you'll keep it filed away in your head, or if you're doing some updates to a home, you'll keep in mind how important it is to age in place successfully. So Sandra is a member of our board of trustees. I've been on board for about a year. To introduce you formally, she's been an occupational therapist for over 20 years. She has had the privilege of working with individuals from ages 3 to 102. She has provided training sessions and presentations to staff, caregivers, groups of homeowners, and other professionals in falls prevention, dementia strategies, low vision interventions, and home modifications. Currently, she is now achieving her dream of being an entrepreneur. She is the founder and CEO of Functional Accessible Living, a consultation home modification environmental design business for adults with disabilities and for seniors who want to age in place successfully. She is a wife, a woman of integrity, a motivator, enjoys nature, and she's an avid reader. So welcome, Sandra. I will turn the screen over to you if you wanted to just say a few words about your career and how you got to where you're at.
Sure. This is the extremely shortened version. As Pam said, I've been an occupational therapist for over 20 years, and my story actually begins 30 years ago. In my early 20s, I got an injury which affected both of my arms, from my fingertips to my shoulders, my neck, and my upper back area. And I dealt with chronic pain so severe that I asked God to come and take me. It was difficult just to wash my face, just to brush my teeth, just having clothes touch my skin because my nerves were so super sensitive was painful. So I'm still here, so God decided to leave me here. And so I figured there must be a reason why I'm here. So I spent the next 3 years at home, physically and mentally recuperating. And it was a very, very long journey. It took me 3 years to be able to write for 3 hours, because that was my goal for getting back in school. Well, during these 3 years, I spent a lot of time as a patient in and out of therapy. And because I had to start life all over again, I had to think about what I wanted to do as well as what could I physically do. So after my second year of recuperation, I spent a summer vacationing at Rainbow Babies and Children's Therapy Department. And that was where I discovered that I wanted to be an occupational therapist, because I wanted to educate people. I wanted to help their caregivers and help them to understand that things actually could get better, and how to advocate for themselves so that they would be able to have a new sense of hope even after having an illness. So the following year, I applied at Cleveland State's occupational therapy program and was accepted. And that was a very long journey because I still dealt with a lot of pain. And it was just my faith that got me through. It's my faith that continues to get me through the additional 5 disabilities that I had over the next 30 years. So I tell ladies, I tell everyone that I meet, never, ever give up on your dreams. Even when things seem impossible, there is always a way if you keep striving. Because I could have never imagined that I would be where I am today, enjoying a career that I could have never, ever imagined that is truly something I would do, even if I wasn't paid to do it. But being paid for what you love to do is always wonderful. So today, together with Rebuilding Together, I always tell people we can assist with modifying your home, but it's also about restoring your life so that you can have the ability to live your life with greater independence, confidence, hope, safety, living in your community for as long as you want to, without having to go to a facility, unless that is your choice. I tell people nothing is impossible. The video will allow you, will actually show you some things that are covered in a home safety assessment by the occupational therapist. And there are even more interventions that can be provided based on your individual specific needs. And so the primary main objectives today are to, one, ensure that you are able to understand the importance of home safety, especially falls prevention, that you can identify hazards in your home, eliminate them or minimize them. And three, that you can keep your home and your family safe and secure, especially when there are multi-generational age groups living in your home. So enjoy the video.
I think I got it. Yay. Okay. Tell me.
Falls Prevention Awareness Day Facebook Live event. Today we're going to talk about simple strategies that older adults, caregivers, people with disabilities can do in their homes to help prevent falls and injuries from happening. And one point that I want to make is that falling is not a normal part of aging. There are many things that older adults can do, simple things, to reduce their risk for falling. We know what the risk factors are, and if we can address those risk factors, like home hazards, we can reduce falls and injuries.
You know, Kathy, as an occupational therapist, one of the things that I'm concerned about is how the environment fits with what the person needs to be able to do in their daily life. Mm-hmm. And so the reason that's important in terms of falls is there are a lot of things around the house that we encounter on a daily basis that could potentially be hazardous. And so we want to look to minimize that so that as we go through our routines, we are not facing safety problems and fall hazards. So there are going to be a few things we're going to focus on in today's session. First, we want to emphasize that clutter is always going to be a problem. We want to avoid clutter in our homes. We all have a tendency to collect and amass too much stuff, and we want to avoid that. The other is that good lighting is going to go a long way to make your environment safer. So wherever we can, we're going to try to increase or improve lighting to make that setting a little bit safer. And then the third is there are a lot of things that we do on a daily basis that we can anticipate, that we can put things out and make them more accessible so that we're not encountering unnecessary hazards throughout our day.
That's great. Great points. So the home that we're going to visit today has been adapted for a person with a disability. So we're going to point out some of the universal design features, but we're also going to talk about, again, some simple strategies that anyone can put in place to reduce their fall risk.
Right.
And one of the major places where falls do occur is actually in the entrance to a home, here at the doorway.
Right here at the front door, yep. So what has to happen at the front door, and typically this home, again, is set up so that there's no steps leading to the front door, but most of us have steps in our front entryway. And so we're going to be climbing up steps. We want to make sure we have good, solid railings. We want to make sure the steps are in good repair so they're not wobbly or cracked. And then when we get to the top, we have to maneuver whatever bundles we're carrying and reach to unlock the door. So oftentimes here at the door, once you get up the steps, I encourage people to think about maybe the use of a grab bar similar to what you would use in a bathroom situation. And if you hang that here, you could hold on while you're reaching in to turn the door, and you're less likely to be off balance. Additionally, out here, it's really critical to make sure you have good lighting. Again, lighting's important. And if they can be motion censored so that as you approach the doorway, the light automatically goes on, that's even better.
Great. Excellent points. All right, well, let's go inside and start with the kitchen. Because the kitchen is certainly a place where we know that falls frequently occur, unfortunately. One thing that I would like to point out here in the kitchen is we do have high shelves.
Right.
And we tend to, put lots of things in the shelf. But it's important for older adults to keep, as you said, keep things that they use most frequently close at hand. So putting plates and bowls and cups right here on the counter, so older folks don't have to reach up high or use a chair or a step ladder, because both of those are false hazards too. So again, keeping things very close at hand makes a big difference.
That's right. And then in this particular kitchen area, you notice we have tile flooring. Tile flooring is potentially fairly slippery, and we have a little bit of a area rug right here in front of the sink, which is typical. But this particular rug on the slippery tile, you'll notice, slides very easily. Those corners would get folded up and become a greater trip hazard very easily. So if I were going to have a scatter rug or an area rug in front of the sink, I would want to make sure that it's a heavy rubber-backed mat, so that it's not likely to flip up and to be as much of a risk. The other thing in the kitchen, again on the tile especially, is that this floor is going to get very slippery when wet. So if I'm carrying water over to the stove and I spill a little, I'm going to make sure that I clean that up right away. I take the dish rag right there from the dishwasher and throw it down and wipe up that spill right away, so that not only I don't slip and fall, but somebody coming into the area not knowing it's wet doesn't accidentally fall.
Great points. Well, let's move to the stairway, because staircases are, again, a very frequent place for falls to happen. And one of the things that I think is really important, you talked about this before, is removing clutter. So here we have books, let's put those where they belong, out of the way of the steps. Shoes, let's put them in the closets. Let's remove them for now, but they should go, in the closets as soon as possible and not block any part of the stairways, because that can certainly be a false hazard. Lighting, again, it's important to have light both at the bottom and the top of the steps, and with a light switch at both locations.
Right. And you've got some nice wrought iron railings, but only on one side of this particular stairway. And so we'd encourage folks to think about installing a second railing on the inner side of that stairway, so that, again, depending on what somebody's needs are, they can hold on with either side or maybe even both sides as they're going up and down. Additionally, this stairway is interesting because it's typical of many stairs. It's very monochromatic. It's all the same color. And so as I get older, my vision has changed. I've noticed that my night driving already is a problem for me sometimes. So I want to make sure that I can demarcate each and every step so I don't miss a step and have a fall down the stairs. And so what we're doing now is we're just showing you, with the addition of a simple 2-inch tape, we can carefully mark out 1 inch going across the top of the stair tread and 1 inch folding over the edge. Kathy's showing us that it's very simple to mark each step with a contrasting color to make it a lot easier to see and a lot easier not to miss a given step. That's great.
Very simple tip.
It really
Thank you.
is.
Yeah, it makes a big difference to be able to see one step from another. So let's go down the hallway and go into the bedroom and the bathroom, because again, those are two other locations where falls often happen. But one thing that I want to point out here in the hallway is this light up here, the light bulb is burnt out. Many older adults would try to change that light bulb by themselves, maybe using a chair or a stepladder, and again, that's a false hazard for them. So I really recommend that older adults seek the help of family members, friends, and neighbors when they do need to change a light bulb, particularly in high places like that.
Additionally, I like to point out to folks that there's a new invention called an LED light bulb. That's one of my personal favorites around home safety, because what it allows you to do, an LED light bulb allows you to get a better light out of a particular fixture without increasing, and in most cases actually decreasing, the electricity use. So even though they may cost a little bit more upfront, the electricity use balances it out and you save money in the long run. Additionally, the best part of it from a false hazard perspective is that they have to be changed much less frequently, maybe once every 5 years. So This bulb, if it was an LED bulb, would not be out right now.
That's right. Good point. Good point. Well, let's come into the bedroom. And one important point here is that, again, we want light.
Right.
Close to the bed. Many older adults have to get up frequently during the night to go to the bathroom. So having a light close by that they can turn on to light the way into the bathroom is really important. In addition, it's good to have night lights like this one over here that will go on. And I know there are some that are also motion sensor.
Right. So some can either be photosensitive, so they turn on automatically when the room gets dark, and some are a motion sensor, so they only go on when somebody's moving near them. My personal favorite is the photosensitive ones, because again, it doesn't wait until there's movement to be there. You may need it before it recognizes the motion. Additionally, it's, as you said, it's really key to just light the path to the bathroom and back to the bed. The bed is an interesting place when we think about falls, because one of the issues is getting up and down from the bed. We can install, it's actually a fairly simple process to just add a railing that fits between the mattress and the box spring. And then it gives you a base of support, so if you're standing up, you can hold on and you can pull yourself up. Additionally, the bed is important because posturally, whenever we change positions, especially from lying to standing, our body needs to accommodate to that. Our blood pressure needs to accommodate to that. And sometimes if we get up too quickly, you feel that little head rush, and you want to be careful. That's a major yellow, red flag that a fall could happen. So you want to be careful with that. So taking your time, sitting on the edge of the bed for a minute before you're making sure you've got your wits about you before you stand up is really critical.
That's great. Great. Another point too about the bedroom is to keep a phone handy. Particularly if you are feeling dizzy, you don't want to get up.
Right.
You might need some help. So
Right.
having a phone close by where you can phone a friend or a family member to help.
That's a really
in
good
those
point.
situations. So
Yep.
that's something we could add here.
Great.
Great. Well, let's move into the bathroom. And bathrooms is certainly a location where lots of falls can happen, including injurious falls
Right.
because of the hard surfaces
Exactly.
in the
So
bathroom.
we have a lot of porcelain, a lot of tile, and so if I did fall in here, my bones are going to be more likely to be compromised. So we're going to
Yeah,
be careful.
more breaks in the
More
bathroom.
breaks. So the first thing we want to sort of point out is how nicely the grab bars are available around the toilet. So these grab bars are really helpful, but you notice they don't move at all. That's because they were properly installed. We want to make sure that grab bars are set into studs, and that often involves having somebody with a little bit of training or expertise to install them correctly. A lot of area agencies on aging keep information of handymen in particular areas and locations that you can access who might be able to help you with that.
Great idea. And my understanding too is there are many more options available now for grab bars.
Exactly.
Those that complement the decor in the bathroom
Right.
and other fixtures that you might have.
Right. So you notice the toilet roll and the what is this? Towel rack. That's what I was thinking. The towel rack match. Well, you could get the grab bars to match as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I like to point out is the fact that this towel rack is here. Always leads me to one of my favorite points that I like to make, is that this towel rack, even though it looks like it's made of metal and it's sturdy, is not going to carry your weight, especially if you are in the midst of a fall and you grab onto it to catch yourself. It's going to break away.
Yeah.
And so if you did need a grab bar installed at this position, you certainly could install it here and still continue to hang your towel on it. You can use a grab bar as a towel rack, but you can't use a towel rack as a grab bar. So that's
Great point.
a key
Really
point.
good point. Okay. Great advice. Thank you. What can you point out here in the shower?
So let's come with me into the shower. I don't get to say that much in my daily life. So here we have a couple points that are important for folks to think about. The first is this rubber mat on the floor. Again, we talked about tile. We talked about being slippery when wet. This rubber mat is going to stick and we're gonna have good grip on our feet when we're in here. We have nice grab bars all around so that wherever we're positioned, we can hold on. We can use a handheld shower to bring the water to us instead of trying to do the dance to make sure we get thoroughly rinsed. And so there's a lot of tips, even though this is a specially designed roll-in shower that most people won't have. There are a lot of things about it that are important that can be added to routine or standard showers. Again, here we're going to think about the typical shower that most people have is in a bathtub. And so if I had a tub here and I had to climb in or out, I'd want to make sure that I had grab bars properly installed to allow me to do that. The other thing I would think about is whether or not a tub bench, a tub transfer bench, or a shower chair would be helpful so that I could take rests, sit down. Even if I stood up for part of the shower, I wouldn't have to sit down for the whole thing necessarily. So those are some thoughts about showers that we didn't think about.
And what about the handheld shower? What do you think about that?
It's one of my favorite items.
Great.
People think you need a plumber or it's a big deal to install. It's really not. It's, you know, if you have somebody who's a little bit handy around the house, a son-in-law or a brother or whatever, they can come in and maybe help you set that up quite easily. It doesn't require a lot of plumbing. You just switch out the existing shower head.
Great, great. And that makes taking a shower much easier.
A whole lot
for
easier.
Sure, for sure. Well, you've talked a lot about different things that can be put in place in a bathroom and in other places in the house. What if someone rented their home? Do you have advice for them?
So it's really important, I think, to, again, realize that all situations are individual, so we can't speak completely universally about this, but my experience has been that most landlords are willing to work with people. So if you express to your landlord that you need to install a grab bar, they're willing to work with you to make that accommodation as needed. So I really encourage people, again, not to just assume that they can't do something because they don't own the property. Reach out and talk about it.
Okay, yeah. With the aging of the population,
Exactly.
having more apartments or condos or townhouses or whatever equipped for someone older or a person with a disability.
And let's hope
is a
that this
highlight.
universal design,
Yes.
you know, is catching on and that we're
Yes.
seeing more and more places that are built like
Absolutely, yes.
this. Right.
Well, Scott, this has been incredibly helpful. Really, thank you so
It's
much.
been fun.
Yeah, it's been fun. I do want to point out again that today is Falls Prevention Awareness Day, and
In most of the video, they talked about people who are have some level of mobility independence. But I just wanted to give a few additional tips for people who may be wheelchair bound, and that is with the doors. As you notice, the entry door did have a lever door handle where you just kind of, it switches down. You just use your hand or fingers to turn it down. But those are also good for your faucets, your bathroom and your kitchen faucets as well. Having a 36-inch doorway to accommodate most wheelchairs. In the kitchen, having those new, if you've noticed, you can have drop-down shelving. They pull out and they drop down. It's a lot easier to reach items. Placing a microwave on the cabinet, or they even have microwaves that can be placed lower on like a lower cabinet and kind of like a pull-out drawer system. Underneath your sinks, having that opening there and having the plumbing to be rear mounted so someone can get underneath the sink to wash dishes if they need to and without tearing up their knees. And it's a good thing. On the stairs, she used the blue tape, but the colored tape will depend on the individual's own vision deficits. Some colors work better with different people, so you would have to find that out from the individual. Going into the bathroom, they actually have grab bar toilet paper holders. In some bathrooms, they're so close and so tight that you really can't place a grab bar where you may want to put it. You can actually purchase a grab bar toilet paper holder so they still have the support near them. For people who have problems with wiping, whether that's from arthritis, could be from overweight, bidet toilets work extremely well for them. he mentioned coming into the home, but even throughout the home, if there are different types of flooring throughout the home and their floors are uneven, there are short threshold ramps that you can use for greater ease of transition between each room. And then, of course, in today's wonderful world of assistive technology, you can use it for anything, for lighting, opening your doors, controlling your thermostats, almost anything now you can use technology for. Any questions about anything?
I have a question.
Yes.
So a lot of these, like the grab bars or like the assistive technologies for lighting and things like that, are those things ever covered by insurance? Are they typically covered, sometimes covered? How does that work for people?
Not from your regular insurance. It's something that we have been discussing with insurance companies, and a few of them may cover some things like in your bathroom. They may cover a tub bench. They may cover a raised toilet seat that goes over your toilet. There are some grants that are available, but something I've also noticed is that each, especially in a metropolitan area like Cleveland, and if you're in your more rural areas, the counties, all have a senior department. And if you contact that senior department, a lot of times they can either loan you equipment until you can get your own, or they may even give it to you free or for a nominal, very, very inexpensive amount. And sometimes people don't recognize that, but a lot of times your senior departments in your cities actually can help with that or refer you to other people that actually can help.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Sandra.
Sure, thank
Thank
you.
you very much. So as I mentioned earlier, She Builds really comes to a point when we get together as women and help support other women, and this year, women organizations. And so we have our project days, June 5th in Akron at Access Shelter and CHC Addiction Services, and then June 12th at Women's Recovery and Family Promise of Cleveland. And we'll be working on cleanup and landscaping, as well as raised garden beds, building benches, putting some murals up for the children and for women's recovery in their meditation area. So please consider, I know many of you on this call already have signed up, but share with your friends to come out and sign up for these days. So. And then we have upcoming sessions. We have Understanding Carpentry. We have Lauren Benton, who is a woman who is really, actually, a lot of people know her in the Cleveland area, who will demonstrate and explain carpentry for us. The next week we have Introduction to Plumbing and how to identify water. Water can be, be very destructive if you don't know where to find it or how to shut things off when you see a leak. The 28th, we have Introduction to Electrical Issues and some conversation about light bulbs and such. And then June 5th, we'll be talking about working with contractors, how to connect with a contractor. It's a struggle that, even our organization finds. We had a project a couple weeks ago, and we had reached out to a concrete company, and the day after the project, they responded with their quote. So it just, nothing's timely with contractors, but also when is it time to move on and issues you can hopefully mitigate. We'll talk through that. So I want to thank Associated Underwriting Insurance. You'll see their logo at the bottom, Chrissy Myers and Alice Rhodes. They really jumped on board a year ago, and they were a founding sponsor of this. So I will say thank you and continue to thank them throughout this program. The Cleveland Foundation Akron Community Foundation, and Rust Belt Reclamation. Thank you to these groups and organizations that believed in this mission and this program. So let us know. Do you guys have any questions before we sign off? All right, so we'll see you. Thank you again, Sandra. We'll look forward to seeing everybody next Friday. We did record this. So, and again, hopefully next year we'll be in person and, be in our big warehouse in Solon, really getting down and, working on some things. But thank you all. We'll see you next week.
Hey.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.